unsurprised. Anyone who read Alexis Jay's original report into what had been going on in Rotherham, that report revealed it was corrupt, it was rotten, there was cover-up, young people were not listened to, those who tried to blow the whistle had their reports suppressed, files deleted, they were demoted. This was an open secret in Rotherham because the young people themselves, some of them got so desperate, and their families got so desperate, they tried to tell the police, they tried to tell the authorities, they tried to tell the Home Office, and at every stage it was suppressed. So I'm not surprised that this new report says not fit for purpose.
You know, a failure by central government as well as by the council?
Well, central government perhaps should have looked rather more closely at what was going on in Rotherham, but Rotherham itself was in denial. We had the shocking report from Alexis Jay last summer about 1,400 children systematically abused over all of these years. It was a comprehensive and damning report, but what we've learnt today is there are councillors still in denial. 70% of councillors, I think, interviewed disputed the facts of Alexis Jay's report, so they can't come to terms with the clear reality of the systematic abuse that went on for many, many years on their watch in that city. It is not fit for purpose. Political correctness running riot, things being stuffed under the carpet, and if police and councillors themselves were actually part of this abuse, not just turning a blind eye or covering it up, it perhaps explains why it went on for so long.
Right, I was going to say, it's, you know, this is brought about by survivors and their perseverance, and it's easy to forget about that with all the finger-pointing that's going on. I mean, when it comes to safeguarding, they're still not getting support, essentially, are they?
Well, they're not. It's trying to break through. I mean, I think Alexis Jay did the most amazing report, but I reckon if she was let loose on several other councils, she'd do the same, because I think it's systemic. You know, this crime, child abuse, is as common as talking about cornflakes for breakfast. And I don't know why we deny it. We talk about children being safeguarded, crossing roads, don't smoke, don't drink, don't do this. This is the crime that causes the real damage. And I can tell you, you know, my inbox is full every day from councils that do not listen, that are in denial. The council that I live in right now, I read an article the other day that we don't have a CSE problem where we live. Well, I'd like to take them to 2 major towns and show them exactly.
I mean, Esther, is this a problem that we're only now coming to terms with the extent of child sex abuse?
Well, it's very interesting. I was recently at a Childline base listening to one of our volunteer counsellors talking about the call she made to Childline around 1988. She was 13. She said she was an absolute shocker. She'd ring Childline and call them every rude name in the world because she wanted to see if they'd be shocked. And when they weren't, she got the courage to tell them what was happening. Now, at 13 years old, she was constantly being picked up in the town centre, drunk out of her head, taken home by the police. She was on the edge of crime, but what no one asked was why.
Exactly.
And the reason was that she was being sexually exploited, she'd been groomed, she'd been bribed with cigarettes and alcohol, and she was literally out of her head. But because Childline listened, and I think this is the major moral of this tragic story, if we only listen to our young people, she got the courage to move out of the city. However, having moved out of the city, she then made a statement to the police. She named the police officer, a woman, to us. She made a full statement, and at the end of it, the police officer said, now you're going to make another statement retracting everything you've said, because if you don't, we're going to do you for wasting police time. There is so much denial going on that we actually still do not want to hear the message young people are trying to tell us, families are trying to tell us, that they need support and help.
But, I mean, to say it's as common as talking about cornflakes for breakfast is extraordinary.
But it's true. I mean, you say to people, oh, I was on BBC the other day about the people that have broken their licence up in West Midlands, or the 800 different broken licences. Well, fine, but, you know, 90% of abuse goes unreported. 90% of abuse goes unreported, and the councillors, I remember meeting Tim a couple of years ago with the training that we do. I am an avid supporter of prevention. If I had known what, I would say this because I teach it and I was a deputy head, I have put together this package of training which is proven in Kent to work. That training is now flagging up children who are on the streets. I work a lot with looked after children, troubled families, you name it. Why are they doing it? The number of adults that have said to me, no one in school ever asked me why I was self-harming, why I was running away, why I was so angry, and that is awful. But I can assure you, I took Tim's advice. I wrote to every single safeguarding board in this country, and only Kent replied. And now Kent have us working across their council. You cannot break through because the people in the ivory towers, who are the decision makers, like status quo kept as it is. Now, I've been told by my own council, we love your training, we can't run it, though, because we'd flag up too many referrals.
So do you think that the reconstituted, or beginning to be reconstituted, historic child sex abuse inquiry has now got it right?
I hope so, because this was the last chance saloon for this inquiry. And I was one of those who called early on that we needed an overarching inquiry to put all these different forms of historic child abuse, from the church, from schools, from children's homes, from the BBC, from the National Health Service, into some sort of context so we can see what actually went on. More importantly, has there been a cover-up? Has there been some sort of conspiracy that meant that these weren't properly investigated? They were at best shuffled under the carpet, or at worst actually deliberately covered up. And as it got closer to Westminster, and is there a political conspiracy as well, it's absolutely essential that we get on with this inquiry. I think Theresa May has really done a good job here. She has listened. She's had a lot of flack, a lot of changes to this inquiry. We've now got a judge-led inquiry. I'm sitting on the Home Affairs Select Committee. We will have the confirmation hearing with the proposed chair of the inquiry next week. A panel transparently nominated and put forward. There are some really good people on the panel already, but people said, well, how did they get there? What are their qualifications? And it's going to be on a statutory basis as well. This is going to take a long time. It's going to go everywhere. It's got to go everywhere. But with some goodwill behind it, I think people will now say, this is the thing to do.
Do you think they got it right now?
Hope so. I hope so. I think it became clear that they had to pick someone who was from another country but understood, our jurisdiction. I think that became clear because we're a small population, and in fact almost everyone has links with everyone else.
I don't think either. I think I agree with you. She's done a good job in doing this and starting the whole thing again, because otherwise I think it would have no credibility. This is her third chance to get it right. And I think, reading what this judge has said, then I think she is determined to leave no stone unturned. But the bigger issue still is, although, yes, all this has got to be exploded, it's got to be cracked open, I agree. Where are we going to be 10 years' time from now? What is actually happening in this country to prevent the abuse? What is it? Young mums, do I breastfeed? Do I bottle feed? What do I do with my child? How do I know I've chosen correctly the
Let's
child
not
care?
get paranoid, though.
I'm not
There are
getting
lots.
paranoid.
I'm not
I've
suggesting
been
you
at
are.
the end of this crime.
Let us as a society not get paranoid,
It's
because
not
the
paranoid.
other problem. Let me just make the point. The other problem is that we are frightening adults.
No, we are not frightening
who
adults.
otherwise would like
No, we're
to
not.
cuddle, hold,
No, that is
care
nonsense.
for a child.
That is nonsense.
I'm not for a moment suggesting you are.
No.
So don't take it too personally.
No, but could you just listen?
I'm
Because-
taking it on my own shoulders. I think that when we set up Childline in 1986, we frightened an awful lot of people.
You might have done.
And unfortunately, we then create a climate in which every man is a potential abuser.
That's rubbish.
And that is not the case.
That is rubbish.
It is rubbish. It is not the case. There are loving, caring parents, but they've got to be alert to
They
the
have to be-
dangers
No.
that exist in the real world, in councils up and down the country, in television organisations like the BBC.
We all have a
You've got
duty of
to be
care.
alert.
All have a duty of
Everyone
care.
has to be
Absolutely. Every single person has a
Yes.
duty of care.
Okay,
but
on
the
that-
thing is, it's the feeling in your gut. What's right? I've been there, Esther.
Okay,
God
on
willing,
that
you'll
note of
never have
agreement,
to
we're
be.
going to have to
I
end.
have.
Thank you all very much indeed.